Howdy, friends. Today, we're going to talk about who I think are the top 10 fighters in the sport of mixed martial arts today. Now, that's not the top 10 in the UFC, that's in the entire sport. Now, a lot of these guys, the majority, I'll break the news now, are going to be UFC fighters, but they're not all UFC fighters. This is my MMA top 10 pound for pound rankings. And coming in at number 10, I got Tony Ferguson here. Now, my favorite stat on Tony Ferguson's win streak is that the last time Tony Ferguson lost a fight, women weren't even in the UFC yet. Ronda Rousey hadn't fought in MMA yet, and then think about how Ronda Rousey's already come and gone, and it seems like she's been gone for years. She has been gone for years now, and Tony Ferguson still hasn't lost a fight. So, I mean, you have to highly rank Tony. It's hard. He's in the best division in the entire sport, 155 pounds. Now, he obviously just hasn't had that big fight, and if he can get that big fight next, which next he has to get either the McGregor money fight, that makes a lot of sense for McGregor and for him, or the title shot. Those are the only two fights that make sense for him, and depending on how that next fight goes for Tony, he could be catapulted up this pound-for-pound rankings. Now, coming in at number 9, I got Kamaru Usman. He has been a dominator throughout his entire UFC career. He's barely taken a back step. He's I don't know if he's even lost a round. He's been thoroughly dominated everybody that he's faced, including Tyron Woodley, who is one of the best fighters in the sport. Tyron Woodley, an extremely difficult guy to beat, a guy who had a skill set that could defeat the majority of fighters. He had a skill set that was diverse enough to beat Damian Maia and Wonderboy back to back. And Usman really just thoroughly dominated him for 25 minutes to the point where we had to wonder if that was even like a full caliber Tyron Woodley. But I'm going to give Usman the credit for that win. And this upcoming fight with Colby Covington is going to be really telling to see if he belongs in the top 10 for pound, because I believe highly in Colby's skills. And I think Colby would have done the same thing to Tyron. Having seen how Colby handled Robbie and seeing how Tyron handled Kamaru, I think Colby would have done the same thing to him. But Kamaru just got the first crack at it, so that fight coming up is going to be a determiner for who is a top 10 pound-for-pound fighter. But right now, I got Kamaru Usman at 9. At number 8, we have Max Holloway. Now, Holloway obviously has a recent loss here to Dustin Poirier, but that was going up a weight class. Poirier is on top of his game right now. He's so good. He's so dangerous. He's so accurate. His cardio is better than ever. I think he is one of the best pound for pound fighters in his own right. And the fact that Max Holloway went up a weight class, survived the whole 25-minute beating, and he's won his last 13 in a row at featherweight. The way that he's dominating everybody at featherweight. Maybe Volkanovski has something to say about it, but I think right now Max Holloway is undoubtedly one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the sport. He doesn't really have any area of his skill set that's lacking. Number 7, I have Stipe Miocic. Now, this is probably a little bit lower than a lot of people have Stipe, but I think that you have to realize that he was getting beaten up by Cormier you have to applaud the resiliency and the game planning and everything, and give Stipe full credits for that. I'm just making an argument that he belongs at 7 and not a little bit higher, so I'm going to make a couple of negative arguments about him. So he was getting beaten up in that fight. I'm not sure if Stipe goes out there and beats Francis Ngannou or beats DC again in a more convincing way, because I think one of those two fights should be the next one for Stipe. Then, especially if he beats Ngannou, I think that if he beats the streaking Ngannou right now, this new and improved Ngannou, Stipe would be undeniably the greatest heavyweight of all time, which I probably have him as right now anyways. And he would be a top 5 pound for pound guy. Right now I got him ranked at number 7, and he has a little bit more to prove to get top 5 status, in my opinion. Number 6, another controversial one here, that this is where people, I think in this top 7 is where people are going to have some disagreements with what I think. And at 6, I have Amanda Nunez. Now, you might be wondering how I could have Nunez right now, and I haven't even said Shevchenko yet, because, Nunez beat her. But the reality is, I think Valentina Shevchenko beat Amanda Nunez in their second fight, and I thought she was coming on strong in their first fight. So I really think overall Valentina's a better fighter. She's fighting Amanda from an undersized vantage point. And in her technical striking acumen, she was able to hang with her. She made a bit of a tactical error in the 5th round of their fight, and that's really what lost her the fight. But I still probably had Valentina winning that 5th round and probably winning 4 out of the 5 rounds, winning all the rounds after round 1 in that fight. So, but I mean, Amanda Nunez, to talk about some of her positive, I mean, obviously, it has insane knockout power. She just has ridiculous length and knows how to loop her shots perfectly. This upcoming fight with Germaine de Randamie is going to be a really electric fight, especially if Amanda doesn't just grapple her like she did the first time they fought. It's going to be an electric fight, and Amanda might be able to, if she just outstrikes Germaine straight up, she might be able to get ahead of Valentina in my mind. But right now, I think Amanda's at 6, and I think next person I have is Valentina Shevchenko at 5. So we're into the top 5 now. As I said, I think Valentina beat Amanda Nunez in their second fight, and I think she's basically dominated everybody. She dominated Holly Holm with her counter striking. You could say that her performance against Liz Carmouche wasn't the most exciting, but it was similar to, her performance against Holly Holm. Like, Valentina is so technically superior. She just, doesn't feel the need to put her foot on the gas pedal. If she's winning the fight, she's going to make you try to come to her, and she's okay to just pick you apart when you try to step in and not try to force her opportunities. And you know what? If you try to force opportunities on her, she'll kick your face off like she did to Jessica Eye. And, I think that her ability to go for submissions, I think that is superior. She's got just to an Amanda Nunez. And I think her technical striking is superior. Her knockout power is obviously significantly less. That's where Nunez has the advantage over her, a significant advantage. Obviously, Nunez knocked out Cyborg. But, look at the way that Shevchenko snatched up the armbar on the Venezuelan Vixen. I can't believe I'm drawing a blank on her name. The Venezuelan Vixen, the way that she got the armbar on her hips are just so fast. She's so dynamic with her submission attacks. Her striking is so technical. She literally might have, it seems like, some of the best striking in MMA. She's right up there with the Izzy Adesanyas of the world. Anyways, number 4, my one guy on this top 10 that is not in the UFC, Mighty Mouse. Now, a lot of people have just forgotten about Mighty Mouse ever since he was traded to ONE FC. People were just, see you later, they just forgot about him. People said that he wasn't a star. I thought he was a bigger star than people were letting on, but apparently not, because he left and nobody... He's got no heat now. And I'll admit, I didn't know the guys that he's fought in ONE FC, but his performances have been great over there. His only loss is that loss to Henry Cejudo. And I thought he won that fight. Candidly, I thought he for sure won that fight. I thought it was a bit of a robbery that Cejudo won it. But, that speaks to the resiliency of Cejudo. And, so Mighty Mouse is he's a forgotten guy, but at his weight class, I still think he's basically unbeaten, and he's basically has severely dominated just about everybody. The very close fight with Cejudo, I thought it was a bit of a robbery, but I thought Mighty Mouse won it. But that was his only really close fight in years and years and years and years. Which you can't say about anybody else right now. Who's been at the top of the sport for as long as Mighty Mouse has. So I have Mighty Mouse ranked in at number 4. Number 3, I got John Jones. Now, you might be thinking this is even low for John Jones, but the reality is I'm not going to get into the PED stuff too far, but he's only had one really good performance, like a really top caliber performance, like that we were used to, like when he was marauding through the division in his initial run there when he was 23 years old, just beating all the old vets. He's only had one really good win that was a really convincing, good performance, and that was against Cormier, and he tested positive for steroids right after that. You have to think, lackluster performance against OSP, then he has that the steroid good performance against Cormier, and then he did have a really good performance against Gustafsson. I shouldn't discount that, except for the fact that Gustafsson came back right away after that and against Anthony Smith, looked terrible against Anthony Smith, got finished in a similar way, and then immediately retired. So you have to question what kind of Gustafsson that was that John beat down there. Although he did beat down it was a quality performance, so I'll give him that. And then the Anthony Smith performance after that by John, lackluster performance. I think we all agree on that. He obviously he didn't show the killer instinct. It was just, lackluster, very lackluster. And then the same thing with Thiago Santos, and that was his worst performance of his career, without a doubt, against Thiago Santos there. So the recent sample size with John Jones, I'm just making a case for why he's not number 1 or number 2, and I have him ranked down at 3, because I think these top 3 guys are all, any one of them you could have at number 1 realistically. But until I see another really quality performance from John Jones, or he does something, spectacular, I almost want to put Mighty Mouse ahead of him, to be frank, because Mighty Mouse is dominating his opponents. And you can't say that, at 205, the caliber of opponent is much better than at 125. This isn't 2006. The 205-pound division isn't the marquee division that it used to be. So, I think John Jones and Mighty Mouse are basically interchangeable at 3 and 4. Number 2, I got Habib time. And Dustin Poirier is a live dog coming up here pretty soon, and Poirier could spoil this for Habib. But you have to think, Habib is in the toughest division in the sport. He's 27-0, and he's almost not even lost a round. There's like the Gleason Tebow debate, and maybe he lost a round against Connor, but these rounds aren't like he got starched, or and he got hit by Michael Johnson. So much is made of him just having a blemish in a fight. That should tell you everything about how highly skilled and how highly rated he is. Habib, in the hardest division in the sport, at 27-0, dominated everybody, UFC champ. I got him ranked number 2. The only reason why I don't have him ranked number 1 is because at number 1, I got Triple C, Henry Cejudo. And you just have to applaud Henry. I have to give number 1 because of his winning across multiple divisions. And he actually looks like he's going to be the first champion to really defend both belts. And if he can, even get every defense that he gets at either belt, he's just isolating himself there at number 1, I believe, until he has a terrible performance or he loses one of those belts. You have to have him at number 1. He's the only guy who's really trying to defend both. Amanda Nunez might try to defend both, but the women's featherweight is a Fugazi, obviously. Henry Cejudo, as I mentioned, I did think Mighty Mouse beat him, but that was a very, very close fight. And after that, he beat TJ Dillashaw. If Dillashaw didn't have, the PEDs, and Dillashaw, I thought, was one of the best pound-for-pound fighters. I thought Mighty Mouse was going to smash Cejudo, and I thought he kind of beat him, but Cejudo got the win. I thought Dillashaw was for sure going to smash Cejudo. I'm such a big Dillashaw fan. I think he's so good. And Cejudo obviously starched him, but a bit of a controversial finish there. So I still wasn't sold on Cejudo going into that Moraes fight. And I thought even in a lot of ways, Cejudo having to go up to fight Moraes. Moraes is such a big, strong 135er. He looks like he could easily fight at 145 and be a powerful guy up there. He's so fast. He's so dynamic with the kicks. I really thought that was the toughest fight of the 3 for Cejudo. I thought that was a tougher fight than the Mighty Mouse or the Dillashaw fight. And then you look at the way that Cejudo, took that beating in round 1. It's the same thing in that Mighty Mouse fight. His leg was dead in round 1, and he somehow came back and won it. And, it's against Moraes, that beating that he takes in round 1, and he comes back and wins. I mean, you have to admire the grit, and you have to give him full credit for coming back in these fights. You have to give him full credit for doing it across multiple weight classes. And that 10-pound difference when you're a 125er is a bigger percentage difference, if you will. You know, the lighter weight you are, that those 10 pounds are bigger differences. Like 145 to 155 is not quite as big of a difference as 125 to 135. So you have to think about it in percentage of body weight. So, I mean, Henry Cejudo, Triple C, he wants that intergender championship. Terrible shtick, which is why I love it. Terrible shticks work, you know? And I like the whole cringe thing. So Henry Cejudo, I got him as number 1. So I'm going to show you guys. Here's my top 10. I've got my honorable mentions. So number 1, Henry Cejudo. Number 2, Habib. 3, John Jones. 4, Mighty Mouse. 5, Valentina. 6, Amanda Nunez. 7, Stipe Miocic. 8, Max Holloway. 9, Kamaru Usman. 10, Tony Ferguson. And then just for shits, my 11 to 15 goes as follows. DC at 11, Whitaker at 12, Poirier at 13, Colby Covington at 14, Jessica Andrade at 15, honorable mention, number 16. I almost would put him in there at 15 ahead of Andrade, Israel Adesanya. So, guys, that is it. That is my top 10 ranks with some honorable mentions in there. Who do you have ranked top your pound for pound rankings? What did you think of my pound for pound rankings? Comment below. Please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. You can follow me on Twitter at Empey Talks. Social media will be in the description box below. And until next time, cheers, friends.